So I'm just going to quickly say hello and welcome to Flat Earth 3. This time we're going to look on the bit of a darker side of it. But first, before that, I just want to quickly announce this is going to be the last Flat Earth podcast for me. But don't worry about it. We are going to carry on. We've got a new host. I do believe Joshua and Keith, you're going to come back and talk to him. Hopefully Brad will also come back as a guest now and again and join in. So there's a few things that I'd like to sort of go over from Flat Earth 1 and 2. So it sort of makes it a trilogy for me before it goes on to sort of like a mini series kind of thing. But first, I'll just quickly introduce. We've got Brad, we've got Josh, we've got Keith. This time we've actually got two Flat Earthers. Never had that before, so this is going to be interesting. So since Keith has been gagging to talk about Flat Earth for the past couple of episodes that we've done Let's Talk COVID and Let's Talk Conspiracy. And we never let you talk about Flat Earth at all. We just had to keep it separate altogether. So I want to ask you a question that I asked Joshua, and it took him nearly 2 episodes to actually just give us a straight answer. And it was a simple question. It was, what was the first piece of evidence that you came across or found yourself that convinced you that we live on a flat Earth?
Well, for me, it was just sort of like water. That was kind of it for me. Water always remains flat. It's always got to be contained. It doesn't conform to the shape of anything. And so when you start looking at the physics of water, that's the main pointer for me. And I heard the other two flat Earth ones, and it's just one of those things. Somebody gets triggered by the distance of things, and gets thrown into the mad calculus of the ball. But in reality, there is no calculus to be had because it's flat. But for me, it was water. It really was. It was just, that was it for me, and that sent me on my way. And it was just down to pure physics, just the physics of water, what it actually does. There's no way that you can make water do what they're saying it can do. It's always got to be.
Hang on a minute. So what exactly are they saying water can do then?
Stick to a ball. It's impossible.
That's it. Just
it's simple, isn't it? You've got 71% of what we know is water. And so in any other sort of scientific procedure, it's got to be testable, provable, and repeatable, and it's not. So when you basically break it down like that, and you get to that understanding of water will not do what they're telling you it will do, you know that they're lying to you. And the demographics of the ball are just ludicrous.
But how do you know that?
Do you know how big your ball is? Do you know how big your ball is, John? How big is your ball?
I know how big both my balls are. Thank you very much, Keith.
That's perfection, But how big is your globe? Do you know? Do you know the circumference of your ball? Do you know the diameter of your ball? Do you know the depth of your ball to your supposed core? Do you?
I personally don't know, but there's plenty of people that do. Educated people that have looked into it, that have spent years looking into it.
Yeah, well,
I like to do that because they've done it for me.
But this is where it falls apart, because you're questioning flat Earth when you don't even know your globe. Now, if you're gonna question something, you need to go out there.
I've always said that I'm open-minded to it all. Show me the evidence.
Exactly.
It's like I don't particularly want to bring religion into it, but if you show me God,
this is where it was from. This is where it's from. If you want to go back.
Shut up a minute, Keith.
Sorry.
Christ, man. I've forgotten what I'm saying now. But if you show me God 100% right in front of me now, I'll believe God.
Brilliant. Spot on.
So I am open-minded. But the thing is, the more I look into flat Earth, the the more it leads me into two trails, and I'll explain later on, but in two trails that I do not like whatsoever.
Okay, go for it.
Brad's got his own theories on things. I'm pretty sure, his idea of it's going to be slightly different to mine, so that'll be interesting as it all comes out. So the first bit of evidence was water. But what exact was the evidence? You're just saying to me that it was water that convinced you that we live on a flat Earth. What evidence? Something I can look at. Flat Earthers like to use their evidence that they can look at. Well, so do I. Give me some evidence I can look at.
Okay, well, you can try it and for yourself, get yourself a football, pour water all over it, and see what happens. Okay, you can get a sink of water, and you can there's this just this ludicrous thing where they say, well, all the water goes round a different way in the south than it does to the north. That's ludicrous. That is just ludicrous. In my sink, my faucet goes from one side to the other. If I put it one side, it goes round one direction. If I put it the other side, it goes round the opposite direction. That theory is just nonsensical rubbish to try and prove to you that water's doing something that it doesn't. So you've really got to break it down. You've got to think laterally. And when you look out to the sea and you look at the horizon, which, by the way, is a breakdown of horizontal, it is flat.
So hang on a minute, just so I can get it clear, in my head. You're basically saying water is flat no matter what. That's the only shape it is. It's just flat.
It's got to be contained.
Yeah, so have you never actually looked? Have you never looked at actual raindrops on a leaf?
That's a really bad example because you're talking about vast quantities. Try doing that with a bucket of water.
So shouldn't the behaviour of water be the same whether it's a small droplet or an ocean?
No, because
so the water changes its behaviour depending on its size. That's what you're saying.
Well, obviously, yeah, because that's what we see, and that is testable, provable, and repeatable. That is science. That is actual stuff that you can look at and you can prove for yourself. And so when the flat Earth is easily proved for yourself. When you're looking for, things like curvature, and there is none, then when you're looking at proofs for a ball, right? When you're looking for proofs that you live on a globe, as I did. You find nothing, and the reason you find nothing is because it's all based around gravity.
Hang on a minute. So hang on. We'll talk about gravity and everything else in a minute. I just, Brad looks like he's got ants in his pants there. He wants to say something, so I'm just gonna, just jump in, mate.
No, that's okay. I'm just kind of, I believe that the premise of Flat Earth is predicated upon, believing what we see, believing what is visible, believing what is viewable, correct? Kind of more or less the dichotomy of what this theory is about.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's interesting, though, because you're talking about, water cannot stick to a ball. Does a soccer ball have the same geographic properties as the Earth? Does it have a molten core? Does it have layers to it? Does it have magnetic properties? Does it have the same geographical traits?
Okay, right. Listen, you're going on about a molten core and magnetics.
Okay. You can jump in anytime, Josh.
Yeah, please.
Top of your head still chopped off, but that's all right, So, because we're both flatheads, I just think, and I will say that, John, you don't have a very big globe. I think you're a very humble man. I don't see you as a very big-headed person at all. So, but I do want to make a few little comments because I think, Keith, what you're trying to say about the flat water argument is the idea that it's very, very hard to, and you can't find or prove curvature unless you're using fisheye lens or whatever. We got to be careful with how you say it because you said something, well, if water's on a ball, it would just fall off the bottom. You're just completely demonstrating that you're not understanding the rules of the globe video game, so to speak, where on a globe model, down is towards the middle of the ball. So gravity, I know gravity always does that, but I would say if we're going to talk about it, maybe talk a little bit more about the rotation and all, but I try instead, and how it might spin off the equator or something, but I try to completely avoid talking about those topics at all, because I'll even tell them, like, water can curve, water curves in a raindrop, due to the elasticity of the water. In a cup, if you put water into a cup, it's going to curve up towards the edges of that cup. So water can curve, right? But when we're talking about oceans and massive long distances, you got to talk about the horizon. I just had a debate with Toon Guy here last week, and essentially they admitted that it's possible to see the Chicago skyline from across Lake Michigan and over 53 miles away, while also admitting that the horizon is supposed to be 3.1 miles away. And then their excuse was, oh, but you're at 182-foot elevation. And I never was even able to get to the rebuttal of, you could go to 2,400-foot elevation and still not be able to see it. So you got to explain it in a way, because if you try and get into the globe mathematics and stuff, you're losing the argument entirely, because all you're doing is giving people time to ignore the flat earth fact stuff, like, hey, you can see Chicago from across Lake Michigan.
Listen, I don't even get into the 8 inches per mile squared or any of the nonsensical maths that go around the supposed science that you live on a ball. It's flat. It's just flat, and that's it in my mind. I'm not even going to argue these nonsensical science facts that they give you, because to me it is flat. And there's no way that there's any proof that you live on a ball, because it's all based around that big G thing that we're going to talk about in a little while. And so when we've based everything around a theory, then there are no facts. And I like to base things around facts.
To approach this topic as if they are both theories, and so when you have you have to, for the respect of the other person involved in the conversation and where they're coming from. So sometimes you have to say, well, because globe model is going to have an explanation for almost everything, and it really boils a lot of time down to the gravity issue, which is really just a theory of relativity about the downward force. And they're going to say, well, that doesn't work, but on a flat Earth model. But a lot of people don't even, have a good understanding of what the real working flat Earth model is. So it's hard, because you're almost trying to have two debates at once. Is it possible? Is this such and such a thing possible on a globe? Yes or no? And is it possible on a flat Earth? Yes or no? So you have to answer those 4 questions instead of sitting in on one topic, which is basically, you and I had the same thing that made us go, yeah, it's flat, which is the water and everything. You can't find curvature when you go try and measure it. When you go try and see how far away stuff is, you can't see it. There's no curve. And then you get questions like, really ridiculous questions like, if the Earth is flat, how come all the other planets are balls? And it just shows that they aren't arguing in a way that understands the flat Earth model. But when you say something like, on a globe, the water would fall off the bottom, you're demonstrating that you don't understand the way that the globe model theory works as well. So you got to work at it from both angles so that you can give credit where credit's due, in order to avoid fruitless conflict over things that are just trying to re-explain confusions of one model versus another. You know what I mean?
The reason these things fit both arguments is because it's flat. So our flat evidence is their globe evidence, because they're living on a flat Earth. They don't quite understand that. But
yeah, but the thing is, right, we've got one better piece of evidence that cancels all the evidence out, but unfortunately, flat earthers completely ignore it, and they choose to ignore it. And that's all the stuff from NASA that's actual photographs of the globe.
Well, if NASA hadn't have gone ahead and faked 6 bloody moon landings,
where's your evidence for this?
all their footage and the fact that they lost all of the telemetry and everything else to do with it, and it's all gone and nobody could see it, and the pictures were very few and far between. And if you watch the actual footage, if you listen to the technical specifications of those crafts, it's impossible. And you've got Nixon phoning them up on a telephone with a phone line. Ridiculous, nonsensical. If you believe that, then you're going to believe you live on a ball, because that was what it was set up to do.
That one.
Right, go on, Joshua. Sorry, you broke up then. Go on, you carry on.
Because it looked like Brad wants it. But here's the other thing. I wouldn't get into why it doesn't make a lot of sense. I would just take NASA at their word. They admit that it's all photoshopped, and they, you know, the one picture from one year to the next, the continental sizes are different. There's inconsistencies in the cloud formations where you can see that they used copy and paste in their formal official photos. But one other thing that is ignored in this topic, and I challenge anybody who's a researcher out there. I'm not a researcher. I'm more of a just, you know, a family man. This is what I think, and I got a loud mouth. Okay, so I'm not going to sit around and dig into all the mathematical. I like your globe calculus comment and whatnot, but there are documents out there, so I'm told, from NASA, CIA, the Army, and some of these, at least three, there's one more, I think, where they are admitting that these experiments with rockets and airplanes and things are in consideration of the fact that they are occurring on a flat, stationary, geocentric model. So they admit, NASA themselves admit that it's a flat model that they're doing this on. And then when you bring up gyroscopes, you're like, well, oh, but you didn't do your research, because even though gyroscopes are said to, you know, I don't know, I'm rabbit trailing. So, or it gets to where you have to take people at their word. You know, people think chemtrails are a conspiracy, but it's public knowledge, and they admit that they're spraying aluminum into the sky and stuff out of airplanes.
Hey, John, did you ever read that whole thing?
Right. Sorry. One of you at a time, because the sound keeps breaking out. So I'm going to let Brad jump in there.
Josh, did you ever read that whole article where it says flat and stationary? Did you ever read the whole thing?
No, I did not.
Okay. That's actually articulating a computer program that they were trying to build some kind of like a model. I don't know what they were doing specifically, as far as what I could ascertain from the whole article. But they were explaining the basically the computer the paradigms that they were going off of in terms of implementing the actual model with the computer. And they were saying stuff like stationary, you know, and flat. They were just describing basically the surface that they were using computer-wise.
So what's the point of but you know, it creates suspicion. I'm not saying this is a proof. I think because a lot of it, finding a proof is very, very difficult, because then you say, well, we have photos of Earth from outer space, and then you know, the flat Earth is going to be like, those are all CGI, man. And then you say, well, you go up really high and you can see the curvature, and I'm going to say that's a fisheye lens. So, but you know,
I'm going to go into fisheye lenses in a minute, but I just want to go back to because I like to do things on different points of view. So going back to the you shouldn't be able to see that from here argument. You mentioned Chicago several times, so you mentioned it on other shows as well.
Yeah.
So I looked into it, and the only thing I could think of was people were just mistaken by the mathematics of it all. But that wasn't the case with you. You knew full well that the mathematics that flat earthers use is completely wrong. So
completely wrong for the first mile, but it's
no, completely wrong altogether. It just doesn't work whatsoever.
Yeah, but those mathematics, John, were given you by mainstream science. for many, many years, going back to the 1800s, going back to these were the mathematics given by science, right up until the 1800s, and it was like there were so many flat earthers back then trying to prove a point with those mathematics. Okay, and then all of a sudden,
anyway, so back to my original point.
They change everything.
Not the 8 inches piece. It's not the 8 inches per mile square math.
It's not. It's just fake bullshit because it isn't a ball anyway. It's flat.
Sure, but you have to understand. You can't just say it's flat because it's flat. You can't just say God's real because the Bible said so when you're trying to convince somebody and give it. So you talk through it, and you have to use you have to acknowledge the numbers they're giving you and show. And so, I mean, what happened in that debate is I was told, I was like, okay, here we are. Here's Chicago, and here's the guy looking, and this is 53.3 miles. And I don't know how well you're seeing this, but then they're saying that this guy was 182 feet up. Well, I was saying that this is not the only guy. They were talking about Joshua Nowicki, who his photo of Chicago skyline from the other side of Lake Michigan was actually published on the news. And the news reporter's excuse as to why he could see it was that normally we can't see this, but this is a superior mirage. And just the basic mathematics of what we see are and what I think the math. So what I'm telling you is we don't need 182 foot elevation at all. There's Rob Skiba went out there on a boat, and he was at water level at 0, and he took the camera and he zoomed in on it, and he could see it the whole time. And the only thing that was obscured is this little part on the bottom. So this little part down here, the reason it's obscured is because of the fact that there is heat differential between the elevation and humidity in the atmosphere. Just like if you go on a hot, flat surface of a blacktop and you put your eye down and someone walks away, they're going to disappear feet first, even if it's perfectly flat. Okay, and this horizon, when it's on the globe mathematics that is used, the horizon line, if I draw it up here, and you're here, and I know this is not the scale, but the horizon is where this point is, and you stop seeing it, it's only supposed to be 3.1 miles away. So if that's only 3.1 miles, using the mathematics of any globe calculator you go get on the internet, and you can just plug in the numbers and say, how far away is the horizon if your eye is at water level? It's 3.1 miles, give or take. And that is high level at sea level. So if they're going sea level and they're admitting that you can see it from 53.3 miles, where's the other 50.2 miles that we can see? We can see way, way further than you should be able to see using globalist math. And on a flat Earth model, it's very simple. Like my friend Keith here says, it's just simply flat in our model. And so the only explanation you have to have in a flat Earth model is the same explanation as to why we see sunsets go down on the horizon and just disappear bottom first as they go, right? So
curvature.
It's not just perspective, it's atmospheric lensing. And
time, because the sound keeps breaking out, we'll have no show if you keep trying to talk over each other. So, Joshua's just explained that. What do you think about it, Brad? Before I go on to,
I have a question. Okay, so what is a flat Earth model? Is there an actual model of what flat Earth is supposed to be? Or what it is imagined to be?
That would be the Gleason standard map of the world, and that was widely used.
Well, that's kind of neither here nor there, because I mean, maps are,
maps
maps. They're not necessarily representing flat or anything. They're just geographical, basic.
Pretty much says it all. And if you're talking about maps, you go back to early maps, and the maps of the North Pole show a very different image to what you'll see on Google Earth. You'll see 4 land masses with a big magnetic mountain in the middle, well documented back in time. So when you're looking at maps and the way that sort of the stuff's hidden, then you've only got to try and Google the North Pole and the supposed South Pole, something that Captain Cook went out looking for in his journeys and never actually found that land mass that there was reportedly saying there was out there. He spent 3 years looking, for Christ's sake. So you've really got to sort of like put into context of the maps are everything, especially early maps, maps that have been hidden from us since about 1958. What was it? Encyclopedia Britannica featured in 1958. Studies done in 1955, I think it was. About the research that they had found the dome, and it was about 13,000 feet up, in that region. So these are documented stuff. This has gone down, but since like 1958 or something, all these maps have been hidden, been trashed, and been put aside. It's not nothing that we see at school. All we see at school is a ball, and you get the sort of I don't know, the geography class and this nonsense that you've got a core inside, a molten core that's magnetic. Well, I'm pretty much an expert in magnetics. I created the world's first hovering chair. I used permanent magnets and repelling forces to levitate a person. I was the first person to do that. My understanding of magnetics is pretty immense. And to have a molten core, when you heat up a magnet, it becomes null and void. And they're just speculating. They're just speculating that there's this molten core 1,000 feet beneath us. Just sheer speculation, because we've only ever dug 8 miles down. It's all theory. It's all theory. Your ball is based around a total theory with no facts whatsoever. None. Zero. And this is the understanding. You've got to forget everything that you've been taught and you think you know, because you don't.
Here's my question to you. Okay, here's my question to you. So it's easy to be dismissive and say, well, everything's a theory. Everything's a theory. I mean, I will admit, I don't have the answers for everything. I don't have the most mathematical brain. I can't, you guys could probably pin me on several different things. But then again, official definition, I will hold that as truth because it still stands, because it's actually never been disproven. Okay, so the fact that you could say, well, there's no, it's silly that there's a core. Is it really now? Has it been disproven?
I think it has.
The thing.
Look.
I think that proven that the Earth is flat, but I think that I want to try and be very concise with my answer to what is the flat Earth. But the basic flat Earth model that I personally prescribe to, this is a top-down view, and this is a side view, okay? The top-down view, the North Pole is in the middle. I do not think that the equidistant map that is on the UN logo is the actual way it would look. I think that it's kind of morphed because of the way that they calculate the distances and stuff. I think it would look a little bit more like the way the continents look on a globe, except on this model. It's really random, but if you have blurry, it's like this is North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia. And over here I got a Hawaii because that was a fun place. And then the sun and the moon are both rotating around in this direction, which is the westward direction. So all the people who say you can't circumnavigate a flat Earth, they're assuming that they're trying to do this, when really you're just making a really big right-hand turn, and all you're doing is the North Pole in the middle is what's attracting you.
Yeah, but
right?
Hang on a minute. Wouldn't pilots realize this?
Not necessarily, because all they're doing is looking at their numbers and their horizon.
Well, have you ever tried to fly a plane? Have you got any idea whatsoever how to fly a plane?
I've been in a plane, and if
being
you
in a
hold
plane and flying a plane are two completely different things, which is why we had a pilot on the last episode.
Sure, I understand.
And you might as well have sat there and told him that he didn't have a clue how to fly a plane.
No, I would never say that. I would never say that. That's
Go
putting
back
words
and
in my
listen
mouth.
to it. You might as well have told him that.
No,
And
I'm
it's the
not
same
saying
with,
that.
hang on a minute. It's the same with Keith. We had him on a Let's Talk COVID episode, and he had the cheek to sit there and tell a COVID long hauler that she never caught COVID at all.
Yeah,
Telling
see, I'm not
a
gonna put words in people's mouths.
biologist, not just a biologist, but a biologist teacher that has been teaching for 16 years, that she should go off and do her own research.
Okay,
I'm telling you, she's done more research than
a
you've
pilot
ever done
can't
in your life, Keith.
Hey, John, please don't put words in my mouth, because I would never say a pilot can't fly. Okay, but what I'm telling you is that
You're telling them they don't know. I'm pretty sure they would realize that they're doing that instead of doing this.
Not over the vast scale that we're talking about. And if all you're doing is checking your compass and your GPS and all these devices, which are based on north is in the middle.
Navigation is built on a globe, not a flat Earth.
Not necessarily true at all.
It is. A pilot even told you that, but you ignored everything he said.
Ground positioning system is required.
There's plenty of pilots that have come forward and said it's flat.
Where did I grab?
It depends on what type of pilot. I think you should go back and watch the Flat Earther versus Pilot episode. You'll learn a bit about how pilots navigate.
I've actually heard testimony of pilots who have lost their jobs. I've heard testimony of pilots who have lost their jobs for talking about their flat Earth view. I've seen videos of pilots who are up there and like, does the horizon look flat or round when we get up that high? If there's evidence
that these people are actually pilots that could show me their pilot license, I'll believe them.
I don't know. I'm not that kind of researcher. Okay, so what I am is I'm going to explain to you.
You just believe in what you're being told, then, aren't you? That's the thing.
No, well, so is anybody who talks and all you're taking in is what you're told from NASA or what. Just like in the science community in the airplane, an airplane pilot doesn't have to not the plane and they don't have to think the Earth is flat or a globe in order to figure that out. They can still go do their job.
They need to know it's a globe.
So
the pilot told you that.
They don't. No, they can go up there and fly on a GPS system. And here's the thing, okay? If they're being lied to, how would they know? Because if GPS is instead of global positioning,
they're the ones that are up there piloting the globe. I'm pretty sure they would notice.
No, hold on. I'm gonna need about 3 minutes to explain this because I'm pretty sure they would notice. I disagree with that, okay? Because if a global positioning system is actually a ground positioning system, who would really know? And if you're looking at
once again, you're telling the pilot that he didn't know what he was talking about.
That was about 10 seconds, John. I said about 3 minutes.
Oh.
So, right, hang on. Well, Brad's been off the line for a while, so I'm going to let him jump in with something.
All right. Okay. But I can never really get to the end of any of these trains of thought without a new one coming in, a new one coming in, and a new one coming in, which makes it very hard to have any kind of valid conversation.
So my internet went out, so that's my bad. But anyways, no, go ahead and take your 3 minutes, so that way, because I want to understand what you're trying to convey.
Okay, so what I'm trying to convey, for example, is all you ever hear is that the Earth has to be billions of years old, and it has to be a globe, and it has to be evolution that explains who we are and where we came from, and that is the only thing you ever hear. And then you go and sign up to work for NASA. Let's not even talk about airplane pilots, because actually, before you brought up the airplane pilot discussion about how they would have to know it's a globe, I was literally talking about circumnavigation in ships. Right, and saying that some of them thought they were going around a globe, but all they were doing is checking their compass and checking their GPS based on the stars. And if you do that on a flat Earth map, it's going to get you west or east. and you're still going to be able to find your way through the oceans because this is way, way bigger than it looks on this board. Same as globe model, I get it. But the idea that you just have to know every aspect of every science and that you have to know how global positioning systems work in order to read the monitors in front of you, that or if you're working for NASA, you assume it's a globe, but if the only top 3% of them that are in the control and doing that are lying to you, how would you know? So, and I'm not saying that that's a proof. I'm just saying that there's a valid explanation that you don't need to deceive 1,000 people. You don't have to have every person who thinks it's a globe be a liar. You just have to have control of the top tier and get enough control in order to confuse the masses into not really caring about it. Most people don't even want to care whether it's flat or globe. It doesn't even matter to them. You know what I mean? But it works fine in an airplane model, and we can get into airplane models. There's whole videos on how airplane paths don't work so well on a globe model, and they work even better on a flat Earth. But, it's more than my 3 minutes, but you know what I'm saying. It's kind of hard to get into the details, and it's one thing at a time.
Well, that's why we're going to do a mini series. You know what I mean? So you're going to have, the more times you come back, the more you can explain. But like I say, it won't be with me. It'll be with Francis.
All right.
Okay. So here's my question. Okay, right. And I'm going to take kind of a simpleton approach here. Okay. So according to the flat Earth model, the sun and moon are swirling circular trajectory above us, according to the flat Earth model. Do the sun not rise and set? Rise in the east, sets in the west?
No, they do. The
they
sun
do.
rise.
Okay, so they do not circular trajectory around us. They actually rise and set beyond a horizon.
Coming into your perspective and going out of your perspective. That's what the sun's doing. So when the sun comes from far, far away, and actually you see it coming up above the horizon, it's coming from far, far away, and then it passes right over your head and then disappears over the horizon behind you because it's moving farther away. It's all perspective.
Well, yeah, it is all perspective, but that doesn't necessarily mean
it's not rising at all. It's literally staying the same distance from the Earth, whether it's far away from you or right above you, and moving away.
But what is making? I mean, you can say that, oh, it's just going further away, and it's just the illusion, or it's just the perspective. But how does that delineate the perspective of it rising and setting in a global Earth? How do you rectify
You're not living on a globe, mate. You're not living on a globe. And what you're seeing, is what everybody sees because you're living on a flat Earth.
Keith.
Okay, but why does it look that way? Why does it look that way? And I want to explain that. Okay. So here's this. Okay. If all we had was perspective, the sunsets would look like this one, right?
Can't see it.
They would just go. All right. Let me try this from a different perspective.
You have to verbally explain it.
Okay. All right. That's what I like anyway. Okay. Let's talk about remember when I brought up a blacktop, perfectly flat blacktop, and you just put your eye down in the parking lot and you watch somebody walk away from you? They're only a couple 100 feet away from you. But if it's a really hot day, they will set. And I don't mean volleyball. I mean, they will disappear feet first and appear to stay the same visual size as they walk away. It will literally look like all you did was take them and move them down through the ground and into the ground without moving them away from you. And you can do this on a kitchen table with your children in an experiment. All you need is a table and a magnifying glass and a little fake sun. And you put your eye down at the edge of the table and you take the little ball, marble or ping pong ball or whatever you want, and you move it away from you. And at first, without any atmospheric lens, like a magnifying glass, Without that, it'll look like it's going further away and just getting smaller and smaller as it goes, which is what most people think it should look like if the Earth was flat, unless you are just completely ignorant to the flat Earth model and you think that it's a flashlight shining down and should be daytime all the time. No, that's not how it works in the working flat Earth model. When you put a magnifying glass in between you and the marble will appear to your eye through the magnifying glass to stay the same size and simply go downward and out of sight. But all you have to do to create that visual effect is move the marble away from you. Rob Skiba, again, I really like the guy, did a really cool explanation of this on YouTube, but it's harder and harder these days to find that video. And then when you take into the fact that the Earth is not perfectly flat, there's also hills and valleys and waves in the ocean and things like that. And what is it that's causing that lensing effect in the atmosphere? That is something we get from modern science. It's called atmospheric lensing. It occurs from the humidity and water droplets, and apparently now a new information also occurs through temperature differential. And in the last debate I had with somebody over this, they admitted to me that light curves downward, and they said that that's why we can see it from further away, obviously trying to say that light is somehow orbiting around the Earth, making it easier to see things from farther away that we shouldn't normally be able to see on the glass. But I think that if light is bending down, as you see it, it's going to give you the visual effect. It's just going so far downrange, way down the hall. In art class, you used to see that big hallway, and at the end, there's a vanishing point. Well, the vanishing point only occurs when things are going smaller and smaller, but with an atmosphere that has a lens in it, that object doesn't get smaller and smaller as it goes away. It goes down and out of sight below the visual horizon. And when I was on an airplane flying back from Colorado or Utah or something, I took a picture. I still have them somewhere in my Google Photos. I took a picture of the sun at 3 different locations, and it looked bigger in one, then medium-sized, and then smaller in the next. And when you go really high up in high-altitude amateur air balloon photos, you can see the sun from farther away, and it looks small. Go try and look up on YouTube, sunset over Mount Everest, and you won't be able to find an uncut live one.
What I don't get is, why do you believe these small handful of people that have no knowledge whatsoever about the way the world works over all these scientists, teachers, medical people, all these professions? Why blatantly ignore all their life's work and everything they've ever done?
Because they've the knowledge that's been given to them. They've just
You're smarter than they are you, Keith?
No, you've got to think objectively. You've got to discount all that knowledge or supposed knowledge or supposed science.
The whole
think for yourself. It's about thinking for yourself, and you've got to step outside the box, and you've really got to just say, okay, well, none of it's true, and I'm going to look for myself, and let's see what
you're saying. Nothing's true. Don't trust anyone apart from a flat earther.
No.
So yes, well, that's what you say, right? So listen, right?
It's like when you talk about conspiracies, they're not conspiracies; they're subjects.
Keith, shut up a minute.
Here's my point. Okay, so we can reference things like atmospheric refraction. We can go into all these visual anomalies. We can go into all these scientific visual things. But at the same time, how does that displace? How does that and put itself in its place what Flat Earth is saying? That the atmospheric refraction is happening, or just every other visual anomaly. To me, this sounds more like, without you actually proving or disproving that that the sun and moon rise and set, and actually without being able to our global existence, our spherical existence. To me, it's it's just grasping at straws. It's kind of like Flat Earth excusology 101 here. to where you're just implying, any type of theory you can to try to dispel it. But you're not disproving it. You're not disproving it, nor are you putting in its place. There's nothing that's actually proving that that's actually happening, as opposed to the sun and moon, actually rising and setting because we live on a spherical planet.
Right, hang on, before you carry on, I'm sorry, Brad, you're really breaking up there. Is there any chance that you can go somewhere with a better signal?
Yeah, sorry about that.
I was able to understand basically the question. I mean, because what it's trying to say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that, you think it's flat, and so you're coming from the flat Earth perspective, and so everything else is just trying to figure out a way to explain it using all these anomalies and atmospheric phenomenon and things like that to try and explain away and try and just fit the world into your model that you thought, right? Is that what your argument you're trying to present?
Basically, yeah. I'm just saying, I mean, you can mention all of these things. That doesn't necessarily make them actually apply. It doesn't actually displace our spherical understanding of our world, and nor does it put in its place the conjecture theory and the conjecture, because without actual physics, and just saying that this is what happens, that doesn't validate it.
Well, that's what they've said.
I need validation.
Yeah, but that's exactly my point. That's what they've said to us all our lives. That's what happens with the ball. They've told us
But
this.
is that wrong? So, okay, Keith, let me ask you something. I want to ask you something. Our educational system, our educational system has taught us that 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, is it wrong because we were taught that? Is it wrong by default?
It's not wrong by default. It's when you start making mass up with theoretical mass about a theoretical theory, and you're trying to say that that's so far away, and Mars weighs so much, and the star is so many light years away. It's all conjecture and theory. There's no factual basis upon it. If you're going to give a fact, it's got to be. I can't test that. That's
right.
So
okay. Give me a fact that we live on a flat Earth.
1 + 2
around you, my friend. It's the fact that there's flat water. It's the fact that you don't feel any sensation.
It's not flat water. Even Josh, who's a flat earther, has said that water curves.
Well,
it's water in water droplets or the corners of a cup, not in a vast shape. Listen, John, you get yourself a massive ball and you start walking around it, mate. You ain't going to get halfway down the side before you fall off, and that's with your gravity involved. You're supposedly gravity involved. And did you think you got any chance of standing underneath that ball, my friend? And if you are standing underneath that ball, you're upside down.
Okay, Keith, what I'll do is I will build something the size of the Earth just to prove to you gravity exists, just to prove to you that water can stick to a ball.
It ain't this ball that they say you'll live, this gigantic ball of Earth that you're living on is tiny. It's only 25,000 miles.
It just goes back.
Miles in my car.
Keith, shut up. It just goes back to the fact that you ignore all the evidence that's out there. You ignore everybody. As long as they're talking about flat Earth and they're on your side, that's all you're interested in. You don't give a shit about really looking at the proper evidence and all these thousands and millions of actual people that have actually spent their lives looking into stuff like this.
Yeah, I spent like 10 years looking at this subject, so I think I'm pretty much like,
Keith,
up on
all
my
you've done is flat Earth, flat Earth, flat Earth, flat Earth. Everything's flat Earth.
And it's not flat Earth. I talk about any subject you want. I'm well accounted for. We can talk about cancer. We can talk about
cancer. According to you, doesn't exist. 9/11 never happened. According to you, COVID doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a vaccine. You're fucking nuts.
Hey, Keith.
No, well, like informed. That's not nuts. If you're prepared to look at stuff,
everything doesn't exist. Do you exist?
Hold on, Keith.
How do you know you exist?
I gotta say something in my limited amount of time.
Sorry again. Say that again, mate.
I gotta say something in my limited amount of time here to Keith.
Yep, go ahead, mate.
Keith, I totally disagree with your perspective and your approach. Okay? we're going to talk about, and don't interrupt me, please. We're going to talk about Star Wars for a second. Because I like Star Wars. I think it's very, very fun. And in Star Wars, water don't fall off the bottom of the darn ball. Because the mathematics and the rules of the universe inside of that equation and computer program, game, video game, movie, whatever. Did you guys know that in the Lord of the Rings, the original, very beginning Silmarillion, the god character changed the Lord of the Rings Middle Earth from flat into a globe when Sauron lost his heavenly, like, elf-looking form and only had his ugly war form left? I mean, come on. It's a fictional thing, or this is fictional. One of them's fictional, but both of them work. And to say that a globe, in the way the globe math works with gravity, that water would fall off the bottom of the globe is absolutely absurd, ignorance, idiocracy, and not the way that you understand the globe model. And the only way to explain this model is if you also understand the rules of the globe model and how that one works. I am not contending with anyone at all saying that the globe math doesn't work inside of the globe model unless we talk about physical observations like seeing Chicago from across Lake Michigan. And the only explanation given from the globe model from that point was Superior Mirage. And they said but I countered and I said, well, Superior Mirage is always upside down. They said, no, it's not. So I countered again.
It's not the.
We already talked about that. I'm trying to get back to Keith's argument and to disprove Keith, right? Because the point that I'm trying to make is you can't argue this from it's flat because it's flat. You can't just say the Bible's true because the Bible says so. I mean, if you want to believe that, that's fine. Go ahead. But it's not going to convince anyone else. Okay? You have to understand their view. You have to understand where they're coming from in their perspective and argue it. I would argue that it only takes one provable, repeatable fact to disprove globe. Now, we can get in all the different explanations, okay? And I think seeing Chicago from across Lake Michigan proves it's flat water. And how much flat water, and that's not even the farthest thing we can see. We can see stuff like islands off of Italy from way further away that they're supposed to be not just 2,400 feet below the curvature, but they're supposed to be miles behind the curvature and the horizon. And like I said, the horizon is only supposed to be 3.1 miles away at sea level, and we have at least one person. Now, I challenge anybody who has the means and the money and the free time, go get and rent a boat, get over on Michigan shoreline on the state of Michigan, find a clear day, zoom in on the Chicago skyline, keep a bead on it, do a live stream, have multiple witnesses, both globe and flathead, and then go get yourself on a boat and drive all the way there and put your hand up on it. I wish I could go drive down to Antarctica, but we can't. So you got to argue it from the right perspective. You got to argue these things, understanding and giving credibility, just like if you were going to enter into a evolution versus creation debate or young earth versus flat earth. I'm not an evolutionist. I'm a young earth Bible flat earth believer. But you see, I don't argue this from a Bible perspective. I don't just say, I think the Bible says it's flat, so it has to be, right? I look at it and I look at all the evidence presented. I'm not going to ignore NASA, but I don't trust them at all. They have done too many things that are public knowledge of CGI imagery, faking space missions, faking where you can see them on a live stream. Even the Elon Musk sending up that red car up into space. I mean, the shape of the Earth that he said the curvature was way steeper, and he was not even as far. I got a meme I could find, but I don't base my information on any of this. I base it on whole picture. And all right, I saw that this is possible. This is the one that makes most sense to me. Prove me wrong, please. If I'm wrong, show me how.
Well, I'm going to leave that one to to Francis. Hopefully he will, because like I say, if it's going to be a series, you can have plenty of time to
So,
talk. Into different-
I want to interject here. Okay. So, this is kind of my litmus test. Okay. This is kind of what I propose to flat earthers, and nobody can seem to answer these without kind of coming out with, outlandish, reasoning and excuses. We already kind of covered, the trajectory of the sun and moon. Still, I'm not satisfied with that because that doesn't necessarily, again, those visual anomalies do not necessarily, by default impart themselves into, the reasoning of that's what's actually happening. Also, isn't there supposed to be a dome, like a firmament, correct?
Yes. Like a snow globe.
I'm sorry?
Like a snow globe.
Like a snow globe. Okay. So, again, going off the premise of flat Earth, everything that's, we see flat, therefore the Earth is flat. I guess that basis of premise there. But I don't see a firmament. I don't see a dome. There's no indication of that. Snow, like what are the sun dogs or whatever. That's just, the light bouncing off of, refracting off of, ice crystals.
First of all, a cool question that I ask myself that's kind of fun to think about. Where does the sky turn blue? At what point is it blue? Because if you see an airplane really high up, it's in front of the blue. The moon is not blue, it's in front of the blue. But then is it like on a daytime moon when you see a moon during the day, right? So I don't even know the answer to all these questions. I don't know what the heck the moon is or how the mechanics of that work. I have some theories. I'm trying to figure it out. But see, the funny thing is, a flat earther is expected to figure out every aspect of the scientific model for themselves and explain it. A globalist, they can just rely on, well, they already did the math, and they already did the math. Just like a doctorate in surgery, they're not going to question. Well, I'm not going to question whether or not he's good at his job doing surgery, because when he's got to cut me open, he's a pro in that category. But if he starts talking to me about astrophysics and rocket scientists or this, he probably doesn't know what the hell he's talking about and has to rely on someone else's information. So he trusts NASA, right?
But is that information by default wrong because we are, relying on someone else? See, that's the thing.
Not necessarily. So I would say question everything. Look at both sides of the argument of everything at every point of the turn. And what's funny, when you look into flat Earth, is that I have heard, none of this information I've heard today is new to me. None of these arguments are new arguments. And I've gone down and looked at read papers or books or documents, zetetic astronomy, and I've looked into experiments, by Edison and Einstein and all these things, and read papers on all this. And it's like globalists want me to pull it out my ass at a drop of a hat at any point in order to explain it. Go do your own darn research and figure it out. I'm just trying to explain, here's the best explanation we have for scientifically how this stuff works. Here's the best flat Earth model that exists. And here's my favorite proof for why it has to be flat. And I've got a whole bunch more. My second proof is sunsets, and I'm going to sunset my time because I have my wife calling, and I do have to go, but I'm going to draw a pretty little picture. There's the horizon, and then there's you here, the water. I'll show you. And here's the sunset, and this is the reflection of you. Hold on, you'll see it. So here's the sun. Here's the horizon. All right, hold on. This is my second favorite flat Earth proof. And you can go look at pictures of sunsets from any amateur photographer you want anywhere. Funny thing is, this picture looks like a high altitude air balloon. Look at that. But you're not looking at it from the right perspective. This is actually the horizon, and this is you down here on the beach looking at a sunset. And this right here, this strip is the reflection on the water. And if you were to have it be a curved surface, and I really do have to go, and Brad, it has such a pleasure. Everybody, it's been wonderful. We got to get these time zones right, man. I thought I was going on an hour later than I was. My phone's all messing with me now. And anyway, if the sunset was over curved water, the light hitting the water would reflect and bounce away from your line of sight. But if it's over a flat surface, then you would be able to see a strip of light between the horizon and you that only is obscured by ripples in the water. And you can see that light reflecting off that water in a perfect mirror image. And on a not windy day, anywhere you go, you can see perfect mirror images over water that are not obscured and over like big things. But that's not big enough because on a curved Earth, that's such a huge curved Earth. Well, sunsets are all the way from the horizon to you. That light should be bouncing up and away from you on a curved Earth, reflecting off water. But on what we look at every time we see a sunset, that light reflects every inch of the way from the horizon to you. And no, it doesn't go all the way to your
His phone's going off.
Yeah, I really do have to go. Shalom, everybody. Hey, Brad, Keith.
Nice
John,
one.
You know,
All right,
appreciate
we'll have to do this again, and to where it's not so much of a mess.
Yeah, rough draft. These are all like trial runs and stuff. I'd love to be able to afford like a fancy desk with like a computer camera, and I can do all freaking whatever, and do a weekly hour-long or question and answer from anybody. Last time I was on, they muted me and spent 5 minutes reading all the insults that the people watching the live stream had for me. I was like, come on.
Was that the Toon one, was it?
Yeah, I really didn't appreciate it. And they kind of ignored some of my arguments and rabbit trailed way beyond what, and I get it. Rabbit trails happen in this conversation. It's very hard to stay on topic. It's very hard to argue for things at once, but I don't think they did as good a job as you, John. So, Alpha Studio.
I highly appreciate that.
All right, man.
Well,
All right, have a good one, bro.
Shalom to all of you. Glad to meet you, Keith, and everything too. I hope you learned something, Brad. I hope you learned something, John. Thanks for teaching me something. You guys have a great night. All right.
And you, mate.
You
Cheers.
too,
Thanks a lot.
You too. All right.
Okay, so there's no point, from what I've discovered from all this flat Earth nonsense, is there's no point trying to show a flat earther any evidence from any educated person, from any professional. It's just pointless. So the more I looked into flat Earth, the more the more it sort of came out as a cult. I discovered there's three types of flat earthers. So you got the flat earther corporate cult leaders. They're the ones that are actually making money off flat earthers and their lack of knowledge of the way the world is. That's such as Mark Sargent, Daniel Shotton, and Eric, your favorite person, who is the most funniest person I've ever listened to on YouTube. Eric Dubay, however you pronounce his name. And they're just a small little handful of these cult leaders. You've also got ones that use it to spread fear, anger, distrust, and isolation for their own personal reasons. Right?
I think it's true.
It is very true, because listen, shut up a minute. Shut up, Keith. When Flat Earth 2 went out, I started getting some messages of people from a particular country. I'm not going to say where. And at first, it just sounded like they were having a go at me because I was a glober.
Right.
And we'd had a flat earther on the show, and they claimed that we'd ganged up on him, which we didn't. But the insults got a lot more darker and dangerous when they sort of thought I was an American. So it no longer became about flat Earth, and it was because they thought it was an American. I must have the most weirdest accent for an American. You'll have to tell me, Brad. You know what I mean? So, but yeah. So
You
they
see, you
started
just
then.
hit upon some sad individuals, John, and they're obviously like not thinking straight in the head. Any decent flat earther is not going to attack anybody. It's just going to give you sort of like their perspective. And when you realise that the ball theory has only been going for 500 years. And going back thousands of years before that, every single civilization knew that they were living on a flat Earth.
They did. They had these small little pockets of people that then fizzled out, and then it came back, and then it fizzled out, and then the internet was invented, and YouTube, and then bang.
No, that's a massive jump. That's a massive jump in history. It wasn't like that at all.
It was. You can look it up and look it yourself.
Came up with this idea only 500 years ago, Copernicus. Okay, and before that, everybody knew it was flat.
Not everybody. Not everybody. It was a small handful of people.
On his head, everybody knew about density and buoyancy, and this was the reason things fell. And these lies and these myths that have been sown as the truth that you're taught and you believe are just nonsense, absolute nonsense. And when you truly look back in history, when you truly do your research and you truly look at these civilizations that believed that and knew clearly from the absolute, people weren't thick. People knew what was what. They knew the constellations. They knew that these things never moved. This is why they could predict the years to come by and when there was going to be an eclipse and everything else. It was simple because nothing ever changed within the stars above.
The stars change all the time. Where's your evidence they don't change?
Where's the evidence don't change? You've got to look up. I've been looking up for the last 4 years. Just looking at these things.
Do you think never change every single day? Do you think that's how it works? Is it?
It's interesting that NASA, everything from NASA and all the space agencies is all CGI and fake and bullshit.
It's rejectable. Just reject.
Yeah, we can look through it.
Well, why is it then? Why can't they give you a rocket launch and then it going up and doing what it's supposed to do? They never give you that. It will go up and then it will cut to CGI. So
they were doing this before CGI was even invented then?
Yeah, with crap models like you saw on the moon landing rubbish. And look at it. Look at every single, from the shuttles to what's going on now with the supposed space station traveling at 17,000 miles around, and all the bloody satellites that are meant to be up there. I'm looking up with my P900. I don't see shit. I don't see no satellite. I see nothing spinning.
Keith, how is it you are there gibbering the living hell out of me without satellites?
How? It's a three. Jesus Christ! Do you think that there's satellites? Do you know that all your information, all this information comes through underground like cables?
You do know that you can get a decent telescope, a couple of $100, dollars, whatever, and go and look at these satellites yourself going past.
You can't.
You can't. Oh, can't you? Oh, right. Well, go and get a telescope. Come on. You like to do your own evidence. You like to do your own research.
There's looms. There's things called looms. Okay, these things are taken up by a high altitude balloon. They're called looms. That's what they are. Okay.
So they're just balloons.
Now, all your information,
all
your data comes through cables under the sea. That's where all your computer, all your phone, everything comes. It all comes from cables under the sea. That's it. Keith? And if you don't understand that, then you
shut up a minute.
Shut up, Keith. Enough. Okay. All right, Keith. I'm going to switch gears on you a bit here. Okay. Now, I'm going to have an interesting question for you. I'm going to ask you your opinion of me. Do you feel I am indoctrinated? Do you feel I am indoctrinated by the educational system and by the government, by NASA? Do you? I'm indoctrinated.
Not you or John, because you're both asking questions and you're both like wondering why, which is absolutely perfect. You're thinking outside the box, but you've got all
that's good.
Talking around that never question it. You know, at least you guys are questioning it. At least you guys are looking into it, which is a bloody good start. You know, because you're not believing the narrative. You're questioning things for yourself. You know,
of course.
yeah. So go out there and test your globe, and go out there and test the flat Earth. You can do both quite easily yourself. You don't have to have maths or physics degrees or anything like that. You can visually you can literally test it for yourselves, rather than just believing other people's opinions. You know, and you've got to you know, researching stuff is kind of limited now. 4 or 5 years ago, the flat Earth was the biggest thing on the internet. It was just raging and raging and raging, and they had to put a stop to it. And fake news was all like, oh, it all appeared, and shut down Pizzagate and all these other topics that were highly interesting on the internet at the time. We were gathering in numbers, and it became a problem. It became such a problem that the people were walking into shotguns into Planet Ping Pong pizza place because it was just a hype, and they quelled it. And the flat Earth has just been one of these things that's been around for so long, because the evidence is abundant and clear once you start going out and looking at it for yourself.
Okay. So the evidence is abundant and clear. Okay. So I want to point something out to you. I want to kind of enlighten you on something here, and I'm not trying to stultify you personally, but I'm trying to get across something here, because I'm sick of this indoctrination. Well, I'm sick of a conjecture-riddled, non-provable conspiracy fantasy calling me or anybody else that like the rest of the world that adheres to our understanding of science indoctrinated. And I'm going to point out flat Earth's indoctrination. Okay. Now I want you to kind of think in terms of kind of let go of the content. Okay. Let go of the fact that we're talking about flat Earth for a second. Okay. And I want you to pay attention to context and not so much content. Okay. So flat Earth has a modality. Okay. It has a structure to it. So let's just say just somebody, whatever, John Smith, whoever, make up a person, they just discovered flat Earth yesterday. And they start poking around, and they start, going into the flat Earth groups on Facebook and checking out the YouTube videos. And it's interesting because if you look at flat Earth, if you look the way it's structured, if you look at like when somebody comes in and discovers it, there is built-in ideology here. Okay, there is a built-in system. And let me explain something to you. Okay, so when there's almost like a I don't know how you would call it, but it's almost like a beat down in a respect to believe that the Earth is round when you get into flat Earth. Okay, so there's like a lot of psychology here, and if you think that the Earth, and here's how it's played out, if you think that the Earth is flat, well, then you are considered woke. You are considered enlightened. You are considered, like you do not believe the system. You are not a sheep. And these are kind of, see, these. I'm leading you to something though. Okay. And there is kind of like you are Neo from the Matrix. You see everything in code. You understand. So there's kind of almost like an attaboy effect. To when somebody comes into this conspiracy theory. Now, if you come into this conspiracy theory and if you believe the Earth is spherical and you believe what has not actually been disproven by this conspiracy theory, then you are asleep. You are not woke. You are a sheep of the system. You believe everything that you are fed. And see, now Again, I'm not talking about content. I'm talking about context. I'm talking about structure.
Both ways, psychologically, that works both ways, because the Glober can come out with it. I've got superior knowledge because I know it's a bull because of the books I've read and everything else. So it comes across both ways. That arrogance comes across both ways. And so there's no denying that there's always going to be a clash of sort of and a disagreement along the way. You know, when you sort of you've got to really just sort of like think like you and John are and question things, because when you've got that guy that's first coming into the flat earth and he's just like all full of himself, and you've got the guy that's going to challenge him with the bull earth, all full of his knowledge and everything else, there's going to be a clash. But all we've got to do is just sort of like understand somebody else's perspective. Why would I, you know, go under all this ridicule and like nonsense that I have done for many years? You know, I'm the sort of guy that drives around with signs in his car saying the earth is flat, research the flat earth. It's all over my car. Do you know? And so everywhere I go, I've got people sort of like confronting me. It's nothing that I hide, and it's nothing to, you know, be ashamed of. You know, so it's just one of these things. And you know, the ridicule and the sort of like speculation and the you know, and everything else that people have about the flat earth, it's not about that we, you know, we think we're neo and we know everything and you know, and everything else. It's not about that at all. It's not about that at all. It's really about feeling, you know, just a it's just like when you step out of the box and you understand something different for what it is, and then you look back at what you already knew, which made no sense whatsoever, and then you look at what you've got now, which makes absolute perfect sense, you tend to get a grounding off of that. And then you need to then research that point where it's not just you, that there's other people, and these other people aren't just a recent event. These other people went back in history, back in history, you know, knowing the knowledge they did. And we weren't stupid. We weren't cavemen. You know, we weren't these idiots. We never were, you know, and it's been sold to us like we were, you know.
I'm not saying that we were like, I'm not imposing that we were idiots back, you know, in the day when in the archaic ages when we didn't, you know, but you know what, with the advent of technology, see, that's the thing with the advent of technology and the advancement of sciences, and what we've been able to ascertain about our existence and the world and the universe that we live in, it is not nullified by kind of this throwback mentality of, well, oh, back then it was honest, you know, we knew something back then and now they're just trying to hide it. See, that's kind of the conspiratorial you know, attitude. It's kind of like putting on a pair of colored glasses. When you put on a colored glasses, everything looks like that. There's not one thing that doesn't look like a conspiracy. So all I'm saying is that it's just this conspiracy theory creates kind of two different factions. It creates two different teams, okay? Who doesn't want to be on the winning team? Of course, everybody wants to be on the winning team. Oh, you know, you think the earth is flat, well, you're woke. Oh, you think it's spherical, well, you're just blind, and you're just, and I'm just trying to point out to you the psychology that's at play here. Yeah, you know, well, so you can kind of understand, you know, how in fact there is indoctrination that people that believe the earth is flat are indoctrinated with. And I'm just trying to point out some ground rules here. I'm just trying to point out just the structure of this thing. And this kind of psychology goes along with cults. It goes along with pyramid schemes. It goes along as it does with conjectural conspiracy fantasy like flat earth. And I'm conjecturing.
I wouldn't class sort of knowledge as you know, anything like that. And like I said, that sort of like can be twisted around and said a globers sort of like belittling a flat earther for his that thinking you're living on a disc floating in space with water flowing off the edges, you know. And that's the sort of point of view that a glober has on a flat earther. They're like, oh, you're mad. Do you know? But this is just sort of like the thing that's been put out there with all these debunked videos just to make, you know, the facts all go away. The facts of the matter are, you know, the water. You know, I broke it down at the beginning, and it still remains. That is the proof. That is the proof right there.
Let me point something out to you, because you're inferring that you put like let's just use a soccer ball for instance. You could pour a glass of water in a soccer ball and it all beads off. But if you were to actually zoom in with your camera phone, it's not dry.
No,
it's not dry.
It's the water. But then you spin that ball at 1,000 miles an hour, Brad, and that water's coming right off.
Then we come into our atmosphere and gravity, which has never been disproven. It's never been disproven. You try to
prove them, Brad. That's the wrong way to, and that's the wrong way to come across that. There, you just said the wrong thing. It's never been proven, and if you can prove it, you'll be the first man ever to prove gravity, and you'll get yourself a Nobel Peace Prize.
Let me speak. It actually, I mean, you could go to Google and read up on it. And I know this is sounding naive to you. I'm sure it's sounding extremely naive to you. But you can go to, no, I'm sorry. Flat Earth is a conspiracy theory.
No, it's not. It's subject matter.
Let's take a demographic of the rest of the world here. This is a small little, tiny little, this is where your ego, this is what I'm talking about when I was talking about the structure of a conspiracy theory. Because it grabs the self-esteem, it grabs the ego, and it inflates it, and you think, oh, okay, it's all about, it's this. No, the norm is that we live in a spherical planet, okay? Everything alludes to that it's a spherical planet. Looking through a telescope is a spherical planet, as well as it does to where is the edge? Where is the edge?
What's an edge? There's not a flat earther out there that would say there was an edge.
It doesn't
we don't know. We wouldn't say there was an edge, and nothing alludes to that you live on a spinning ball whatsoever. It's the total opposite.
Hang on a minute, Keith. Right. So you say that there's no gravity. So what do you personally think is holding us down?
Your body mass, your density.
That's it. That's as much as you've got. At least better than that.
You are denser than the air around you. Therefore, you don't start floating. Okay.
Okay. So density, but that doesn't see, that's the thing. We can go all day on this. We can go all day. Density, buoyancy, but the force itself, it comes back to gravity. It does. It comes back to gravity. It does not displace or disprove gravity.
Of course it does.
I've heard flat earthers talk about a magnetic magic. Have either one of you heard about that?
No.
No, that it's magnetic forces or something that's holding us down.
No, I mean there's true earth magnets that can be picked up. Which are magnetic rock. There's probably high concentrations of that in some parts of the world, but apart from that, no.
So in your head, we can only balance on something that's like that, nice and flat. As basic as it is.
Well, you can't walk around a ball, John. So
yeah, exactly. So you're saying, if we went underneath, we would fall where we would fall.
Underneath what? Underneath a ball?
Yeah, the globe. Any theories on, say if we did go underneath and we fell straight down, what is actually pulling us down? Is it just our weight?
Yeah, well, it's like I said to you, if you get a great big ball, John, and try and walk around it, you're going to fall off before you get halfway down the side. And
you're completely ignoring all the downward forces whatsoever. So that's the electrical I can't even say it, magnetism that flat earthers use, as well as gravity. So you're disproving all that altogether.
No, I wouldn't use that analogy at all. It's just really down to sort of like understanding that you weigh more than the air around you, and a helium balloon weighs less, so it's going to rise. It doesn't get any more complicated than that.
All of this has been explained through science. This has all been explained through science, and it's science. Yes.
What science?
Science doesn't exist.
Let's go with this. Let's go with. I mean, a flat earther's disbelief does not disprove any of this. Disbelief, you can just go all science. That doesn't disprove any of this. It doesn't disprove gravity.
Our science is testable, repeatable, and but yours isn't. because yours is based around a theory that still hasn't been proved
But
till.
you know what? No. Okay, well, let me explain something. I'm a musician. I don't know. I'm not trying to show it off, but here's the guitar back here. Okay,
Right.
I know something called music theory. I know it's the music theory. It's a theory, right? It's music theory, and it's the circle of fifths, understanding scales and modes, and understanding how to play arpeggios. It's a theory because it works, because it makes sense. It makes music sound good. Understanding theory. If I didn't understand theory, I would not. Every time I played guitar, it would sound horrible because I didn't understand the chord structures. I wouldn't understand what intervals went together. It's a theory because it makes sense. It has not been disproven gravity. It has not been disproven our spherical nature. Look through a telescope. Everything else is spherical. Everything else is spherical. Why would we be floating around on this giant flat pancake? Why? How would that be?
I've been looking at the stars for about 4 years now, and they're discs. They are discs. They're not
Right, so
spherical.
hang
I've
on a
never
minute.
So
seen
you
Keith,
one flatten out on its side. You've seen them flatten out. Then you've seen them go from spherical, and you must have seen something to where it's like flat, right?
no,
Then
no,
how are they discs? How are they
because
not
I
round?
see the other side of them. I only see one side. When I'm looking at the stars, I'm just seeing these like plasma-like things in the sky. I'm not ever seeing any other side of it. When you
But
look
that
at
so
the
that
picture,
because
you
you
don't
can't
see any
see
other
it,
side of it.
Keith, so you can't see it, that means it doesn't exist just because you can't see it.
Well, you can't see it either. So why are you going to tell me it's a ball? Why are you going to tell me it's a ball? When you look at the moon, you look up at the moon and you say, that's a ball. You've never
but
seen the other side of it.
through a
Where are you
telescope.
drawing your conclusions
There's
from?
been plenty of people that have been up in space. Why shouldn't I believe them?
Space
What have
doesn't
they got to
exist.
gain? What have they
Space
Space,
got
doesn't
to
exist.
gain to lie?
well,
And
they're
you
Space
can't
paid.
just say NASA because it's not just
They're paid
NASA
to
and military that's gone up
sign the
there.
Official Secrets Act, and they're paid to do that. They're paid to do that. That's what they're there. They're
Where's
actonauts.
your
Do you have any
evidence of this?
text? Do you have any proof?
You've got to only look at anything that NASA ever puts out. I mean, they've come up with like brilliant stuff on ground for like Earth purposes, i.e., Velcro and stuff like that, and propulsion engines and different sort of like things in that area. But when it comes down to space and SpaceX and Elon Musk and all that, it's just sheer nonsense. It's just.
Right. So Keith, what exactly do you believe? Do you believe like Josh does, that we're in some sort of snow globe, but half a snow globe kind of thing?
Like I said, there's been the Russians went down and did light tests on the dome.
No, I'm
In
not
that,
asking about test. I'm asking about you. What is your personal belief about flat Earth? Are we in a dome? Is it just flat Earth with no dome? Are we in space? Are you like Josh seems to think we're in water? We're in some sort of aquarium.
yeah, well, I mean, this is it. That's the biblical sort of reference for it. What was above and what was below. Me personally, I look up at the sky, and you've got a circle of sight. Okay, so when you look out at the ocean, you're standing at the ocean. The ocean appears to bend around you. That's your circle of sight. So when you're looking up, which you've got a better visual purpose of looking up. The sky seems to bend around your head, i.e., dome shaped. And like I said, the stars are these fixed things, and it would appear that they are stuck within a dome-like thing that spins around you, i.e., this is where the flat Earth model comes from. Me personally, I've never seen the dome. Nor have I, touched it, and nor do I know the true shape of, this flat plane that we live on. So, but when you've sort of got to take on board every aspect, you're not going to discount anything. You're going to keep your mind open. You need to sort of, and unless it's proved otherwise.
But
Right. So
keeping your mind open does not necessarily mean fill it with conjecture and things that you can't prove but you choose to believe and call it truth.
I'm not calling it truth because I've just said I've put it to one side. I don't really know how big, whether it's an infinite plane or whatever. I don't
So,
know,
but
nor
you
do I
know
know
the
whether
Earth is
it's a
flat.
dome over
You
it.
know the Earth is flat.
I know this. Yeah, I know this.
What? How do you know it's flat? How can
So,
you prove it?
because I'm looking back. I'm taking my own sort of like my own equipment out there. I've tested it. I'm
Right.
looking
So
back.
what exactly have you tested and what equipment have you
Test.
used? Give us details. You know what I mean? We're interested. We need details, not just talk.
I went out and I got like a P900, which was sort of like one of these cameras that everyone had. I was watching everyone else use them, and I was just like, if I'm going to like truly do this, I'm going to have to go and get some of this equipment, and I'm going to have to go out and test this for myself. And it's exactly what I did. So I started looking at things at the distance.
Yeah, but what did you test? You got yourself your camera. Then what did you do?
Well, I'm lucky enough to live right by the sea, so I was straight down there and I was trying to have a look at the shorelines that were furthest away from me, that stuck out, and that I could possibly see from the distances, and then I could work out the height and use both ridiculous globe charts to work out whether I could see that or not. And on both charts, it works out, pretty much, that I shouldn't have been able to see what I was seeing, but that was just one proof in itself. And the other is physics of water. When the dynamics of water, and just everything else comes into question. Just everything, it's so many different aspects come into it. Because you're trying to work out, the rubbish that you've been told, of the thermosphere and all these other sort of elements of, where you live.
So it's just an assumption that everything is just some kind of a lie. It's also kind of deceit. That everything that we've been told. See, it's the thing. It's just like you can't. Nothing has been. Flat Earth has not disproven anything.
Listen, just go out there, get yourself a camera, go and have a look, see, use the charts, get out there, and then you'll know. Then you'll know. Then you'll go, oh my God, I really shouldn't be able to see that. Like, he was saying earlier, and that's his biggest proof. And I'm just like cutting out the distance. You can see that because you can see that. You can see Chicago because you can see that. It's as simple as that. That was the day you saw it. It was in plain sight. So that was it. For me,
I've actually lived in Chicago for a while.
There's no argument for it being a mirage. You can see it because you can see it. It's simple. It's plain fact. That guy saw it that day. There was the photograph. And then it seemed like, oh my God, we've got to defend this photograph because that would prove it's a flat Earth. No, you can see that because you can see that. It's obvious. It was there. There was no lie within that photograph. It was there because you could see it. Why you can see it if you live on a ball, I don't know. But I know why you can see it because you live on a flat Earth.
Yeah, but if you live on a flat Earth, you should be able to see it pretty much every day. You should be able to just go and stand on the shoreline, look across, and you should see it pretty much every day. But it's not the superior or supreme mirage. Has to have certain temperatures and stuff going on. So it's only now and again that you get to see it.
It wasn't a mirage at all. You could see it.
Where's your evidence?
In that photograph.
Which the photograph, right? So let's see. It's just, can you actually see anyone at the moment, Keith?
Yeah, I can. I can't see you, John. Yeah,
can't see me.
You see me?
I can.
Brad.
Right, I'm just gonna play something, right? And it's a bit sciencey, so I'm pretty sure Keith isn't gonna like it.
Okay, hey, give it a shot.
Yeah, let's see.
Right, so hopefully, can you see that now? I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can hear it as well. You had problems hearing the other one, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't know. The volume doesn't seem to come through. Oh, okay. I think this is the where it shows the illusion of the ship that's above the sea.
There you go, Fata Morgana. Right, it's an optical illusion. You look, I don't know if you still see it. It's a boat floating in the air, and it's the same thing that has happened with Chicago. Right, they like to say that the superior mirage turns things upside down. Well, yeah, it does. but there's also two versions of it, and there's plenty of evidence like this. All you have to do is, like you say, do your own research, and you will see loads of it.
But that's the same effect that it's like when you're walking, when as it was pointed out earlier, when someone's walking away from you on a flat plane, their legs appear to disappear, and then they appear to be hovering, in midair, the same as if a car drives away from you on a flat freeway. It appears on a hot day that that car is floating above the road.
But you know what? No matter what, you cannot justify with me. There's the sun in the distance right there. It's going down right now, actually. It's about 6 on the dot here, 6 p.m. And I mean, I can watch the trajectory of the sun every day. I can watch the trajectory of the moon that comes up every day. And it is very, very static. It does the same path every time. Right.
Of course
it doesn't differentiate at all, except when we go through the seasons, and then of course you're going to get a differentiation. But ultimately, you cannot tell me something that takes hours every day, 12 hours every day to actually go down, that is some sort of illusion or mirage. It is setting because it is actually setting. Just trying to put some kind of effect in its place as an explanation does not validate it. It doesn't disprove what's actually happening. It doesn't disprove what we're actually seeing, saying that, this is why you're seeing this. Well, no, that doesn't disprove it. In fact, here's my litmus test. This is what I always do on Facebook. Okay. The flat Earth model has a sun and moon swirling circles above us inside of an invisible dome. If that was factual, we would actually see it go across the sky. It would go across like this. Okay, there's no illusion about it. It's just what is happening and what is not happening. Okay, what is happening is rising in the east, setting in the west. That's what happens. Okay, it is not circling around us in a circular trajectory. Okay. As far as the dome goes, I mean, a firmament, I mean, there's no hint of that. There's no way to even believe that. Why would you even believe something that you can't even see? In fact, that goes against the idealism of flat Earth. Flat Earth is based upon what is viewable and seeable. That completely goes against it. And again, looking through a telescope, everything else is spherical. Why would we would be on a flat plane? Why would we're not a flat pancake? It just doesn't make sense that we're just going to be. In fact, if we were on something flat, it would probably be like a jagged meteorite that would not even be sustainable to life. It really wouldn't even make sense. So,
meteors don't make sense to me. So, it's just.
And no proof of an edge. No, I mean, you can't even. You're saying something's flat, unless you're trying to you say it's an infinite plane or something.
Listen, there's so many large flat areas on this Earth that we absolutely know. Okay, and then there's the sea, and if you've heard of the abyssal plain, these are like the largest flat areas ever to be mapped by submarines. It's called the abyssal plain. They're underneath the sea. The bottom of the ocean is as flat as a pancake. Okay, so it's not only on land that is flat, it's under the sea as well. So where's your curvature? Because there is none, because it's been well mapped out, and it's called the abyssal plain. Now, so you can carry on your ludicrous argument that you live on a ball, but the facts are you don't. Whether you like it or not, you live on a flat Earth.
When flat Earth doesn't even compare to observable reality. It contradicts observable reality.
What contradicts the facts? The fact is there's a thing called the abyssal plain. It's underneath the sea. It's the flattest, largest area that's ever been mapped out, and that's not to mention flat areas on the Earth that we know. Where's the curvature?
What does that even prove? I mean, what is? See,
you
again, I'll be honest. I'm ignorant of that.
Huh?
I'm ignorant of what you're talking about because I haven't experienced
exactly.
I
So
haven't
this
encountered
is
that.
where research is paramount. And if you research all the way and you go back hundreds and hundreds of years and you start observing submarine mapping, maps from the past, maps from today, and everything else that I've had to like look at.
Answer me this question, Keith.
How long have you been looking at it? How long
Keith,
have you
answer me this question. Where is the edge? Do you know?
There is no edge. Who knows that it could be an infinite plane? You're telling us with your science that space is infinite. What the fuck? And then I'm not going to say that there's a
flat earther's
I don't
disbelief
know.
is not proof.
Who knows?
A flat earther's disbelief is not proof. So, in other words, I mean, everything you're talking about is conjecture. It's infused with fantasy, actually.
Fantasy.
Talking about
fantasy. The ball you live on is fantasy because it's based around theory. Nothing more and nothing less. No factual evidence whatsoever to say that you live on a ball. Full stop.
It's actually, you know what? It's actually proven theory. Okay, it's actually you need to go. Do you need to go study? You can take a college class on this. Actually,
theories, you have proven facts, and the fact is you've got no facts. That you live on a ball. It's all based around gravity, which is an unproven theory.
Okay, so you can't even show me the edge, and you're talking about I have no facts.
Why are you going?
You can't even prove.
You don't even know how big your ball is.
You can't even prove a dome. You can't even prove.
You can't even tell me how big your ball is and how deep it is to the center of your Earth.
I'll tell you what. Go read up on it. It's not been disproven.
You don't know. I know how big your ball is. It's 25,000, and it's like you just So you're asking me questions about the flat Earth, and you don't even know where you live. If you're saying you live on a ball, you should know the facts and statistics about your ball, and you don't.
But it's we all do though. We all do.
How long have you been looking at the flat Earth? And how long has John been looking at the flat Earth? And why doesn't John know the size of the ball that he's living on?
Go pull up on Google. About the Earth's circumference. Go pull up on Google about gravity. And if you can disprove it, Keith, if you can disprove it, then you need your own TED Talk, bro. Let me tell you, if you can disprove it. See, that's the thing. This is
right, Keith. I've only been looking into flat earthers for a couple of months or so.
Hey, there you go.
And everything, all their so-called evidence just didn't convince me whatsoever. There's always a logical explanation. It seems more complicated with the flat earth than anything. But the more I looked into it, the more it kept turning back to a cult. It's plain and simple. Whether it's a corporate cult or whether it's the people trying to spread fear and isolation. And then you've got your followers, which unfortunately are people that are trying to find better things in their life, hoping that we actually mean more than just an accident, because we were just an accident. We happened to be on the right planet at the right time in the right place. You move this planet just a little bit further away and there'll be no life on this planet whatsoever. We need to be in exactly the right place and the right time.
What nonsense. What absolute nonsense. Absolute garbage. And that's just sort of...
You never heard about the Goldilocks zone then? So that means absolute
garbage. Absolute garbage. That's just absolute
Why
nonsense.
is it garbage, man? I mean, look, I explained to you, Keith, the structure of what you are believing in, okay? The reason I went into that is so you can see for yourself how you are being deluded, how you are being indoctrinated into something that's not even provable.
You're deluded because you think you live on a ball with no proof whatsoever.
Why am I deluded? Because I think I live on a ball. It's not been disproven.
What do you mean it's not been disproven?
You need to go up against these. You need to go up against the scientific community. Then you need to put these scientists in place.
Science is going to change a thing. The fact of the matter is, your ball is based around a theory called gravity, and that's never been proven by anyone.
Right, Keith, answer me this: what is the point of the flat Earth lie? What is the point of it all? What is the point of lying that we live on a globe?
Okay, if you think that there's got to be a point, and there is. It's called control. Okay, it's called
Yeah, but they got
control.
control. Governments already have control. So give me something that you wouldn't get on a flat Earth.
Well, they're obviously hiding stuff, aren't they? And if you're telling you're living on a ball, right, and you don't think that there's any more land out there or any more resources or anything else because you've been told you live on a ball, it's like the analogy of having a mouse in a little cage, and every morning he wakes up and he checks all four corners of the cage and he can't get out. And you've got another example of a lion in a great big wilderness, a reserve, and he gets to the edge, he gets to the fence, and he just looks at it and he wanders off and has his lunch. If you're a human being and you walk to that fence, you're going to want to climb over it. Okay, so if you told you living on a ball and the only place to go is the moon, is Mars, and they've sucked you into this, you're controlled. You're not going to look any further. Okay, and that's what's happening.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here. And if you can't hear me, let me know, because I'm kind of going outside here. But I want to wrap this up, and I want to say something here, because you know what? I think believing in a non-provable conspiracy theory,
i.e. the globe.
Conspiracy theories. Can you hear me?
Can, yeah.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Okay. All right, let me go. It's just for some reason the signal doesn't like it outside. But anyways, I believe that here's the thing. Remember the last time we spoke, I mentioned to you, this was it seemed very offbeat, seems very off subject. Remember I mentioned to you about the word mortgage, what that meant?
Yeah.
Okay. And, again, it's something that if you don't really need to look into conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories are really a head game. It's a head trip. It's a distraction. And I'm not trying to, be sly or trying to be slick here and just say, well, don't look into these things. I'm sorry, of course, look into things. But you're overshooting the truth. Okay? If you want the truth, be aware of the world that's actually around you. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
But seriously, be aware, gain a cognizance of how the system works that we are all a part in. Okay? You want to get an edge in life? Then become aware of these things. Become aware of the rules that we play by and how to hedge the system to your benefit, as opposed to just sinking your brain into just this endless rabbit hole of something that you believe that you still can't even prove. It doesn't.
This is what you both do.
Be empowered in your own life. Okay, be empowered to better the people that you love. Be empowered to improve their lives. And you do this by understanding how the system is played, how our game is played. You're right. Governments do lie. You are right that the human nature, we are corrupt by nature. I mean, you just even going into the subject of money, you can take money out of the equation and we're still going to be corrupt because it's our nature. Okay. It doesn't matter. But to understand human behavior, and to be able to harness for your own, not selfish benefit, but for the betterment of yourself and those around you, that is the moral of the story. That is like literally, you could have a great life. You could lead a great life if you just shut off the bullshit. And who the fuck cares? I don't care. I'm leaving this whole thing anyways. You win. I mean, whatever. I don't care. You don't win, but you win.
The only one, I'm leaving all the groups and everything. I've had that's why this is the last one for me. I've had enough of it. But I just want to point out to Keith. I don't see any global believers, right, wearing and paying money for a top that says Globe Earth Army.
Yeah, well,
so you're paying out to these cults. That's why it's called a corporate cult. You've been brainwashed into buying crap like that. I brought
this because I wanted to bring awareness. So when I'm walking along, I get people coming up, and
you even spent money doing your car up. You've spent money on Flat Earth. You're handing out money to these people that just spread out fear, isolation.
Get the message across.
Oh, what? Getting a message across of what? I'll tell you something, right? This is what it'd be like under a flat Earth rule, right? So there'll be no scientists because they can't be trusted. So You can say goodbye to your YouTube, so you wouldn't be able to communicate with each other. There'll be no medical advances. There'll be no medical whatsoever because you can't trust medical people. Teachers would only teach flat earth subjects. That is it, right? They wouldn't teach science. They wouldn't teach maths. They wouldn't teach any subject whatsoever that adds question to the flat earth lie.
So silly.
And also, anyone that ever speaks out about flat earth will be isolated because your t-shirt, your jumper even says it itself. Flat Earth Army. Flat Earth have created, listen, shut up a minute, Keith. Flat Earthers have created a them versus us. Not work together and make the world better. Them versus us.
It was the Globers who just sort of like started it 500 years ago, and nobody accepted it then.
It was flat Earth started. It was a small handful. It died out. Then another handful died out.
Got so brainwashed, you need to wake up and just.
I'm not the one spending money on stuff that says I live on a globe.
You are watching like endless stuff, buying books and reading books endlessly about NASA and the globe. It's been your whole life, my friend.
Not really. I've not been interested in any of that. Like I said, the more I've looked into flat Earth, the more of a garbage.
Your whole life has been invested in that garbage, invested in space, invested in watching them go to Mars. Your whole life has been invested in that garbage.
It's not though. I've done what Flat Earth has asked me to do, go out and do my own research, and I have, and everything points me to a cult. Unfortunately, you've all been brainwashed into a cult, and you have the cheek to sit there and say we've been brainwashed.
Single-minded person. I think for myself.
Keith, the best way to brainwash somebody is to convince them they were brainwashed from the start, and that is exactly what Flat Earthers do.
No, that's you lot, mate. That's you lot.
No, we don't go around saying, "Oh, you've been brainwashed from the start." It's you lot that start that.
Everyone lives on a bleeding ball, mate.
Exactly. You know, trust nobody. It's literally trust nobody.
So we're expected to ditch our indoctrination for a conspiracy fantasy that is made up as it goes along. You don't even have
subject. It's not a conspiracy. Conspiracy is such an awful word. It's a subject. Okay,
you know, it is a conspiracy because you know what? You don't even have anything factual outside of vagaries of perception, which you play on. You've been playing on the whole time. You don't. There's nothing that's tangible. Okay, I mean, I'm seriously, what I went into earlier with my litmus, with the sun and moon, I mean, the flat earth is contradictive. It's contradictive because there's no way to prove a dome. It's contradictive because there's no edge. It's contradictive because you can look through a telescope and everything else is spherical. And why would we be on this jagged flat rock floating through space? Oh, space. Never mind looking through a telescope. That's fake, right?
Theory. You're not an objective flying through space.
That's reality.
What's the reality?
It is reality. What kind of reality are you on, man? What kind of reality?
You're telling me, I think that I'm on a flat rock floating through space. Is that what you're telling me? I think.
Yeah, but I mean, we're on a disc floating where? Are we in space or what? You haven't told us anything.
Who said it was a disc?
You did. What is it? Flat square? Flat triangle?
It's flat. That's all I'm saying. What? It's flat. It's flat.
It's flat. It's just flat. It doesn't matter what shape it is. It's flat. Hallelujah. You've convinced me.
You did it.
Well, that's it. I'm a flat earther. Fucking hell, Keith. You're fantastic.
I know.
Where's my tinfoil hat?
Tell me about it. Jesus Christ. I've got a UFO in my backyard, but unfortunately it's invisible.
You're telling me flat out you live on a ball and I'm supposed to accept that?
Yeah, but you can't decide on a shape.
To me. That's ludicrous.
It's flat, but you can't even decide on a shape. At least decide on that, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, but you can't even prove that you live on a ball.
I thought it's been proven.
I personally do not know
what size it is, mate. You don't even know what size it is.
Keith, shut up. I'm not turning my back on all those people that have actually did something with their lives.
Really? Yeah, and that's exactly. That's the thing. You can't stand up and think for yourself, and that's your problem. And if you're not prepared to, like,
you can't even tell me what shape this flat planet is. You know, at least I can tell you.
No, you can't. Not with any, not with
It's
any.
the globe. You just want to discount. Shut up. You want to discount all the evidence, anything that points to a globe Earth.
Discount everything that I said. So what do you want me to do?
You haven't given us anything, Keith. You haven't given. I keep asking, give me physical evidence. It's like you show me God in front of me now, I will fucking believe it. Give me some fucking evidence. I've spent 6 fucking hours on these fucking flat Earth videos. Will you please give me something?
It is flat, and you're getting like irate, and
It's
this is
flat.
I'm getting
flat.
around because you
Okay,
don't
okay.
give me anything. You know what I mean?
Tell me that it's
Jesus
full.
Christ.
Anyways, I've got
to me that there's
okay, guys,
four
I have to go now.
Okay, I'm going as well, mate. So, Keith,
Yeah.
you know, you can carry on all this crap with Francis.
Yeah.
So,
we
right.
probably,
So I want to thank.
I'm just going to leave with this. I know this kind of turned out mean-spirited, but I don't mean it mean-spirited towards you. I like you, I respect you, man. You know, you're cool. I think you're a cool dude. I enjoyed the last one we did too. Very cool. But just, you know what, just focus on things that better your life, okay? Not just down mental rabbit holes that are not going to do anything for you or those around you, okay? That's why I'm leaving this whole thing, because I'm just done, and I'm got a trajectory, not circular, but I got a trajectory that is going to better my life and those around me. So period. Go do that. All right, man.
yeah. Well, it's 2:30 in the morning, so yeah. I think
It's definitely time to wrap it up now. Right. So thank you, Brad. Thank you, Keith. You can carry on the series with Francis. Brad will get you back on some sort of podcast eventually, whenever you want.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
I gotta say, I think the second part of this was better than the first part.
Oh, definitely. Well, this is the extra bit. You know what I mean? If you're watching it on YouTube, because I have to censor everything on YouTube now.
Yep.
You know, the COVID one got taken straight off. It was just unbelievable.
Now, there's conspiracy.
Right. Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot. See ya.
Take care.
Bye bye.